Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell. This is the full book summary, so let's get started with. Hopefully you heard that. Gone with the Wind. First of all, this is about the post-Civil War, mostly, but it includes parts about the eve of the Civil War and during the Civil War. Mostly, so we don't even get much about the Civil War, we just get the surviving of the Civil War. We don't find any fighting, we just find one little woman's... One average Jane who just goes ahead, becomes from the flirty kind of woman all the way to the tough and very, very strict and very, very rough woman who can run the world like a man. And what kind of woman is like that? We get our very own Scarlett O'Hara. Now this is going to take a pretty long time to go ahead and summarize, so let's get to it. First of all, let's start talking with Gone with the Wind. Gone with the Wind, let me explain this title here. We start off with our Scarlett O'Hara, as I mentioned earlier, as the kind of flirty little teenage girl, where she goes ahead and flirts with all the men, and then becomes, well, entranced by only one of them. And his name is Ashley Wilkes. Unfortunately, he's all like, yeah, I have my honor. I'm going to reject your love because I'm going to have to marry Melanie, your friend. And that was an incredible kind of thing that literally happened to them. And so she went ahead and started becoming like very foolish, did some very foolish things, and then finally realized that, okay, I can't have him right now. He so loves me, he just has to marry her for honor. I'll get him someday. Which isn't exactly the case, by the way. But nevertheless, she believes in that lie, and she goes on and keeps living her life, though she is sort of depressed. She marries this guy named Charles, and there's only one reason why she married him. He thought she loved him, and then she might have went through that acting a little too much. And then she's all like, okay, let's just get this over with, and she married him and regretted it instantly because he left for the war immediately, and then she was pregnant, and she's all like, okay, this isn't what I wanted, but it's working. And then he died. He just had to die to not conflict, but disease. And once you know it, now she is a widow who is not allowed to have any fun at this very, very young age, and she yearns for all this things. She yearns for the playfulness. She yearns for it, and now she has a kid who she does not even like at all. She's all like, there's a kid in this house. Oh wait, it's my kid. What am I going to do? That's what her reaction is. But eventually she does get over it, and then she starts rebuilding her life. And then, what do you know it, the Civil War has finally reached Atlanta. And because of that, all the Yankees, aka Northerners, have went ahead and trumped in. And we have to go ahead and visit a little friend of ours that I was supposed to mention before, this guy named Rhett Butler. He was actually at the start of the book, but I didn't mention him because he wasn't that big of a deal. His important role in there was on the eve of the Civil War. He stated towards his Southerner friends, the Northerners are going to win. I know it because I went there. And they got so much better weapons. And then later when Scarlett read some letters by Ashley, she's all like, yeah, it reads as, yeah, remember that Rhett Butler guy, what he said about, like, we're going to lose the war because he's been to the north and he knows how much better they are? Well, he was right. We're fighting in their new rifles with old military-grade revolutionary-style muskets. And if you are good at history, you know that was about 100 years ago. Not exactly 100 years ago, but about. And they still haven't updated their weapons. That's crazy. And so Scarlett had to go ahead and have some change. And what do you know it? She went ahead and met Rhett Butler, who was also fleeing this place. And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna invest in you a lot, my girl. And he goes ahead and gives her some of his wagon and his stuff and all of his possessions. At the time, that was just a horse and a wagon, and the horse was very sick, mainly because he had to steal it, and the only way he was able to steal it and get away with it was because no one wanted it. So what do you know? He's all like, yeah, I'm gonna get you to Zara, and then before they even start the journey, as soon as they leave Atlanta, he's like, change his plans. I'm going to go join the army. Good luck being able to have to go ahead and deal with this yourself. See ya. Obviously, this doesn't sit well with Scarlet because now she has to go ahead and also care for other people. You should also be noted that slaves here are almost free, and there's this slave named Mammy. I'm going to draw it in white because if I actually draw it in brown or the actual black, then you won't be able to see this. So white it is. There were slaves here that went ahead and were kind of being cocky. One of them being Mammy. Why are her heads so hard to draw? Mammy. Mammy herself is not that great at being a slave. She's all like, I'm a house slave. I'm not a field slave. Please do not do this to me. Please. And then Scarlet goes ahead and promptly whips her, which puts her back to line. I suppose that works. And another thing that happens is that Melanie, Ashley Wilkes' wife, is also pregnant, and well, she's very, very tired, and she hasn't eaten in a while, so she has literally zero milk. And where's Ashley, you ask? He's off at war, but he's been captured by the Yankees. Melanie gives birth while Atlanta was being attacked. And now that that's happening, Scarlett O'Hara and the baby and Melanie and several others, including Mammy, they all have to go ahead and flee Atlanta. And she is super tired. By she, I mean Melanie. Mainly because she has just given birth and she has nothing to feed her. Excuse me, nothing to feed him. So they reach Tara, and then they realize that it's like in a little bit of a state of ruin. And that's an understatement. It's in a terrible state of ruin. There's barely anything left. There are a bunch of rotten apples under the trees. All the good ones were taken by the Yankees. There's nothing much in the house as well, too. There's no food in the house, too. And now they're all stuck here wondering what they have to do. Their mother, Scarlett's mother died. Miss O'Hara died. But then her father's still alive, but he's not in the right mind. He's like went kind of mad after his mother died. After their mother died. By their mother, in his case, it will be his wife. So, what does Scarlet do? She goes ahead and starts renovating the entire place. She starts off by picking up all the apples that still could be eaten, and then finds how much alcohol is left in the storage. And by the way, that's very little. Realizing that there's very little, remembers that there's some alcohol buried under the tree. She gets to retrieve it, even though it's a little bit outdated. She decides it's worth drinking. Some alcohol is better than no alcohol. Later on, she tries to get some work to go ahead and make some money for the house as well, too, and for the upkeep of Tara. She starts by renovating the entire place, and eventually she's able to become a bit more successful than normal, and finds enough money through her old friend, Rhett. Rhett is all like, well, she was trying to get some money from Rhett, and Rhett is all like, yeah, I'm gonna be stuck in this cell for a while, so I can't give you your money, though. What do you have to give to me? And the Scar's are like, you know what? I give up. I'm not even gonna pretend all this stuff towards you. I need money bad right now. Okay, I'll give you the money, but I can't right now. Then what the heck did you let me make my sob story to you for? Because I like hearing sob stories, but I do have the money. I just don't have it here. It's all in, like, the east. Sorry. It's all in the west. But I can't go to the west, as you can see right now. But if I die, I will leave some in my will. I don't want your piteous money. Get out. And then along the way, she goes ahead and meets Frank. Frank being the person who her sister wants to marry, and vice versa. He wants to also marry her sister. But then she realizes something. Her sister would not give any of this money towards Tara. And then she's all like, but she lies and said her sister decided to break off the engagement and work out for another rich man, saying that she is tired of being an old maiden. And of course this devastates Frank, and he's all like, yeah, that's sad. Well, hey, speaking of which, can I marry you then? Sure. Da-da-da-da. And then they become husband and wife, and then his shop goes ahead and sends a lot of money. Dun, 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 dun. But however, it's also losing a lot of money, meaning because he refuses to get his debts, mainly because those debts are from his close friends. And Scarlet, of course, is pretty mad at this, and she's just like, you have to go ahead and get all this debt back right now. Otherwise, well, this ain't gonna be pretty. I mean, he does it, though, reluctantly, and they earn enough money. And afterwards, she goes ahead and realizes it's not enough money, and that this is not enough money for soon. And she goes back to her old friend, Rhett Butler, mainly because he is able to escape from jail due to a very big lawyers. He apparently had a lot of connections towards a lot of big names in the big hotshot Congress. And so she go ahead and use Red's money to go ahead and buy a sawmill. He's all like, I don't ask for anything in return, okay? This is just an investment to see if you could be successful. And she's all like, thanks, Red. And then her husband's like, what? A woman? Caring for this business all herself? I'll help you. You can't do it yourself. I'm doing it by myself and I'm being very, very successful. What the heck? More successful than me? Yes. Can you at least give me something for the upkeep of the store? No. All goes to Tara and my little being. And then, of course, he kind of dies in shock. He didn't die in shock, but he did survive a few more months about that. And then, like, a few years later, or a few months later, this book doesn't do a good job at dates. He died. Now she's a widow again. But now she really, really, really is looking for some romantic marriages as well, too. This is why I'm drawing her in red now. And then she finally realizes, Red Butler, you're the perfect role. And then they marry. And then he becomes, like, the same person ever and ever. Also, whenever he drinks alcohol, he's all like, he turns into his opposite personality. This goes on for a while. And then finally, tragedy strikes. Melanie, why am I drawing Melanie in red? Melanie has another child of Ashley, and then, however, this one goes terribly wrong. Ashley is distraught, and this is Red. Red has a daughter with Scarlet, and then after a little fallout on how they should raise children, he's all like, you know what, I'm leaving, and then he goes take the children to visit his grandmother, not being heard from him ever since, until like a few months later, where he comes back, and he's all like, yeah, she's dead. Our marriage is over. So, want a divorce? He says that very plainly. And Scar's like, I'll keep this marriage for my honor. And then Melanie has that miscarriage that I talked about. And then we don't know if she's dead or not, but she is in a critical state. Ashley is all very, very worried about it. And then that's about it. That's how the book ends. She finally realizes that I never did love Ashley, and I'm never going to love a man again. She doesn't say that, but I'm pretty sure she would never go ahead and let Ashley take over her heart again. So, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Hunch and Sean. This is the full book summary of Gone with the Wind. Until then, Shihana, peace. Bye-bye!